Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I wanted to give you a little introduction to the video that you are about to see. And this is a conversation between my friend Harry and I. I met Harry a few months ago, and he operates a YouTube channel as well and has his own website and thing going, and it's called Cognitive Personality Theory. He is very, very knowledgeable when it comes to MBTI and INFJing. He is an INFJ as well. And we thought, what kind of fun can we have just having a conversation and recording it and discussing a few topics and throwing it out there for discussion and comments and feedback from all of you. So that is exactly what we did. We went on a Skype call a couple weeks ago and have kind of put the video together to just share our conversation out there. The first part of our conversation is hosted on his page, and I'm going to give you a link to it and all that stuff. It's down in the description. So please check that out. We actually talked for like an hour and a half. We talked for quite some time. And the first portion of this, the first half of our talk, is on his channel. I would definitely encourage you to go check it out. Give him a like and a subscribe, and comment. Tell him I said hi and I sent you. And hope you enjoy that conversation. And the more lighthearted portion of the conversation is being hosted here. And so this is the first half of the second half of our talk. Okay, so I'm going to be putting up two videos over the next 2 days. This is the first one, about 20 minutes long. The second one is about 20 minutes long, which will wrap up our conversation for everybody. In this video, we discuss the difference between personality and cognitive type, which is something that is very near and dear to both of us as a topic. We also attempted to answer the question, or at least gave our thoughts on nature versus nurture as far as MBTI goes. And can you change? Can you be an INFJ one day and then you're like, whatever, I'm going to be an INTJ now? And Harry had some really interesting thoughts on this one, and that's a really nice part of this discussion. Lastly, we decided to throw some random questions at each other, one of which was, what kind of a person would you typically not become friends with? So we just had some fun answering this kind of stuff. It was a lighthearted discussion, and I hope you see it that way. The second half of this video will be out tomorrow. And until then, I will see you when I see you. Oh, always so awkward. Like, I don't know how to, how do you intro a video like this? Anyway, here we go. Just get to it. I think that's one of the things that I try to mention to people too, is that, yes, okay, personality is very different, but the way you're thinking can lead to similar behaviors and can lead to similar things. That's why we find ourselves resonating and in common as when we're a same type, and maybe not on everything. The example I always use is how much I hate candy corn, but not everybody
Yeah.
not everybody despises it as much as I do. but that's a personality thing. It's not. I can't
Absolutely.
go around saying I am an INFJ, therefore I hate candy corn, because that's
Because this is such a separate thing from cognition.
Of course, yes, it is.
But what you find tasteful and what you do not. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, fair enough. In music taste, maybe there's a little bit of cognition there, maybe not. But in terms of like something just raw and sensory, no, this is more in line with your body's genetic code for like being able to, for some nutrients and vitamins being more bioavailable, for example, in your body than another person's, and that will determine taste to some extent.
Sure, absolutely, right.
Because it's already been shown with our DNA testing that we have going on these days. I don't know. Well, we as in the human race. I don't own any of these places, sadly. I'd love to. That'd be incredible.
Right.
So much data. So, so if with all the information we know now that people process, some people need way more vitamin D than other people. Some people need way more vitamin A than other people.
Sure.
Because with some people, just some things, essential nutrients, are just way less bioavailable in their bodies than other people.
Right.
And so that's personality. That's genetic personality.
Yeah,
because that's
true.
determining your behavior, because you say, I like, what was it?
Candy corn?
Candy corn, okay.
That's my...
So, that'll be one determining factor. Another determining factor is you did this thing when you were little and it was a meaningful social experience, and you happen to be eating candy corn on the day, and therefore,
right.
blah, blah, blah.
Let me,
it's a bad social experience, therefore you don't like it, etc.
There is something I've been curious to ask you too, because I received this question and I don't really know how to answer it. I have my own kind of thoughts on it, but I'm curious because you dive into the psychology much more than I do, and it's kind of that nature versus nurture with MBTI. You know where this is going. Is it? Do you think that it is something that is hardwired in at an early age, can it change? Does it? And I don't mean can it change on something like. I mean, I suppose you can go through a physical change, like somebody could have a stroke or something where your brain is going to process something differently. I don't mean quite in that way. I just mean like over time, if you're constantly telling yourself something, can I transform myself into an INTJ over the course of a few months? Or
Yeah.
is my brain the way it is? I'm kind of just curious of your thoughts on this because what I typically tell people is, I think you're I think the way you process things is the way you process things. However, there's a lot of room, to develop something else very strongly. So, I think you might be an excellent person at your internal, like, your thinking and your thought process might be very, very strong just because of the things that you've done or the kind of work that you do or something along those lines. So I'm very curious to get your thoughts on that.
So within CPT, I posit the term cognitive magnetism to describe our natural predisposition to think a certain way, to perceive information a certain way, and then perceive limbic data one way and thinking logical objective data the other way. So in that sense, I do believe that we are hardwired from birth to have a predisposition. But then I also think that we acquire habits throughout our lives and we become used to this predisposition. And therefore, yes, okay, we're predisposed to act a certain way, to think a certain way. But then we do it repeatedly, and then that forms a habit. And that's something which is programmable. So yes, we have natural predispositions, but we don't necessarily have the same extent naturally as we did when we were born. Because over time, we are habitual creatures by nature anyway.
So your experiences
we just do
change.
things over and over and over and over and over again, and that cements us in our brain, and then we identify with these things. And the more we hold on to a certain thought pattern, whether it's a belief in a fact or belief in a spiritual entity, a belief in a moral framework, it doesn't matter like what it is, whether it's something which is external to the self or internal to the self, that's still within the self. It's cemented with repeated use, and then we identify on an emotional level with it on an emotional level through its repeated use. So yeah, I do believe people are predisposed to think a certain way, and I believe that's where cognitive type comes in.
Right.
The cognitive type I don't posit as an inevitability to think a certain way, but I do posit it as the sensation of being pulled to think a certain way about something.
Sure.
But then you also have the option to resist that pull. And if you can resist that pull, then I believe you can overcome your type. That isn't to say that you'd overcome your type in the sense of having no predisposition whatsoever, because whether you like it or not, you're going to be predisposed to what's comfortable. Sure. You're always going to be predisposed to something because you're a human being.
Right.
But you definitely have the power to think about things any way that you want to with consistent training.
Right. See, I don't know if I could if I can think about what it would be like to not be NI dominant.
Yeah.
So, like, can I just you can't really just turn that off. I suppose. I mean, I can work on some of the other ways that I absorb information and I analyze them to I guess change my thought process a little bit. But it's like, intuition just doesn't seem that like if there was a switch, believe me, I'd turn it off so I could go to sleep. From time to time, just to get some shut eye.
I mean, it depends what you're trying to activate. I'd say the difficulty we may have as intuitive dominance is having this SI thing going on instead. Because introverted sensing is something I dip into in order to be specific and concrete, when otherwise I might just be this kind of wishy woo internal landscape. But that is important as a dip function. But to spend an extended duration of time in introverted sensing. Right. If I was doing like a puzzle or something within a very small frame of rules, then yeah, maybe would be using it for an extended amount of time. And obviously, if something that's unnatural will make your head absolutely hurt, and you'll sort of feel like you're having withdrawal symptoms from your dominant function as well. Like getting shakes and stuff. Oh, this is crazy. So, but in terms of something which is more external, like extrovert intuition, that's not necessarily a function which is associated with being an INFJ. It's more common for us to use extrovert sensing when we're gazing at something in the external world. But if I was playing a video game or something, and I just, the zone, that's a popular buzzword that goes around. Oh, yeah. Well, that can often be described as just using extrovert intuition alongside a thinking codec.
Interesting.
because you're
Right.
taking in a plethora of information which is fairly vague because you're not focusing on anything specific because you're attuned to the contingency
Right.
of all this objective data. And you can actually find a lot of peace within that state. But like when you're in that state, you're not necessarily an NI dominant, because to be an NI dominant means you're currently in that state of having a dominant function of introvert intuition and then having your kind of extrovert functions in a more backup role rather than a leading role.
Right.
So I believe in cognitive fluidity, and I believe that yourself and I, we would spend times when we're around other people, not using introvert intuition in an NI dominant sense, but rather in an introverted intuitive, I'm not going to say inferior because, as you might know, I don't like that term, but
Right.
oppositional function.
Sure.
So that means
Sure.
we might be ESTPs when we're around certain situations.
Interesting. Yeah.
And not in the stereotypical jock ESTP, which is like, I don't know, like 0.1% of actual ESTPs on the planet, but no. No, we'd be quite self-conscious. We want to create a good impression upon people. We're fixated upon a small portion of the room,
Right.
or the humans in any given environment, and then we'll just be using what we've already thought about in order to just inform what we're saying without actually thinking about it.
Right. Right. Right.
And that'll be more of an ESTP stack. So yeah, okay, I'm around people. I'm not an introvert intuitive dominant. I'm an ESTP, and I'm comfortable being that. I know that I'm going to need a rest in an hour, but I do believe that can also be trained because it's all about what we're used to.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what else? What else can we touch on?
Where's
Do you want to break out a card?
Yeah, bring out a card.
I want to break out a card. All right. So
it's done really well so far.
So what I have here are they're called so cards, right? I don't know if I can. So.
A collection of something.
A collection of questions for deeper discussion, right? And these are just kind of fun to sort of go through. Some of them I just kind of toss to the side, but and some of them are blank, so you can write your own thing in there. Okay, actually, this is a great one.
Okay.
What type of person are you least likely to become friends with?
Wow. I don't know if I want to bring cognitive types into this. Maybe I'll just like describe someone and then people can say, oh, it's this type.
Let other people
I think
type
someone who I would really struggle to become friends with is someone who constructs their identity on something which has absolutely no relation to any sense of the bigger picture. So someone who goes throughout their daily life doing the same thing over and over again, which we need people to do that. I mean, if we're going to colonize Mars, we're going to need people to do that.
Sure,
I mean, as much as I respect these people, I don't think I could get on with them.
Right.
I don't think I could get on with someone who's like so emotionally attached to their ability to perform consistently the same thing over and 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 over again.
Right.
Because my mind, well, I don't want to contradict myself by saying, I just don't think like that, because that would be terrible. But I don't want to think like that.
It's not a tendency that you would have.
It's not current. I'm not going to apply for NASA anytime soon. So if I do, then I'll think about training myself and then I'll probably have much more affinity with people who construct identities based upon repeated things. But as it is, I'm constructing my identity and my future career, if you like, or my future adventures, as another way of putting it, on my ability to think outside the box.
Right.
And you can't be both at the same time.
Right.
I'm 100% big believer in ability to go through phases and transformations of being the person we need to be for any given situation. But I don't think it's necessarily feasible unless you're some kind of superhuman to be able to 1 minute be this incredibly attentive to detail individual who's so emotionally invested in doing an incredibly good job, not because they want to do something good, but because it's true to who they are and they want to be true to who they are. And then the next minute be, drinking wine and philosophizing with Socrates. It's like, maybe.
Maybe. I suppose it's possible.
Yeah, how about you?
So least likely to become friends with. I can just describe some elements of this person that I would have in my head. Again, I'm not going to say like, oh, it's ENTPs or something like that, because no, everybody's a different. But the type of person that is the drag you onto the dance floor type of person.
Really?
I can't handle that individual. The one that's trying to shine the light on me. That's trying to I get very, very uncomfortable in situations where I can't, and honestly, I encountered this a lot with the karate school thing. with other parents that wanted me to get up and speak or say something, or, things like that when we were out or after an event like a tournament or something along those lines. I'm much more the type to stay back, make sure everybody's happy, everybody's fed, everybody's having a good time. But let me recede and let you guys have the light.
Yeah.
I don't like being dragged out into into that, which is why I'm pretty awful at holiday parties.
Nice. Interesting.
I when anything where it's those terrible words. Let's go around the room and tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Like that's just like I just even thinking about it now, it's so anxiety inducing. Like I have such a hard time with it. And I don't know if this is an INFJ thing, but I'm much more comfortable in written word because I can take the words and I can move them around. And to me, they feel like a puzzle. And when I'm writing to somebody, I will edit it many, many
Yeah.
times, just
Yeah.
shifting the sentences around to make sure it's saying exactly what I want to say. When you are speaking, and
Yeah.
and I've had to do this a lot, once those words are out of your mouth, they're in
Yeah.
cement. They're gone.
Yeah.
They've been said.
Yeah.
And I'm not always sure if that's how I wanted something to come out. So that's the person that I think I have the most difficulty with. That
Interesting.
that very outgoing, boisterous extrovert. They're an E something, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
there's a couple of types which can quite easily
yes,
perform
and
that
and
role.
now
Yeah.
I am married to an ESFJ.
Yeah.
So and there's
Such a fascinating combination.
we understand each other. I understand that she needs to go out and she needs to have her time with friends and go out to a dinner
Yeah.
and stuff like that. She knows that she can just leave me home and I'm perfectly happy.
Mm.
And so when you know that, and also we know that to be balanced, I need some time out from time to time, but my small groups are much more comfortable.
Hmm.
And for her to be balanced, she needs some time working on some of her hobbies, where she's in the house and stuff like that. So I think, just critical to anything, not to get into relationship speak, but understanding how your partner thinks is actually really, really helpful. Um,
Oh, incredibly. That's
because
another incredible use of that tool.
absolutely.
And it's also more complicated with relationships because such an important part of the relationship functioning is accepting your partner as who they are.
Right.
And but at the same time, like we've been given a method of changing not who we are, of course, but adapting our cognition. So that means if we suddenly know, oh, our partner doesn't actually have to act that way,
Right.
maybe they could be a bit more flexible. It's like, oh, okay, well, okay, now start a conversation, and that's incredibly useful for a relationship,
Right.
because tolerance can only go so far, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Growing alongside each other,
Yeah.
for each other, it's quite a beautiful
She says
concept.
it. She will pipe up and say from time to time when I'm having a particularly frantic day, like she's like, "You're INFJing right now," and I'm like, I know I
Yeah.
am.
So
I'm gonna.
in that sense, it's so incredibly useful. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like,
because it
okay,
helps. Because no matter if, like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Maybe you do want to change for each other to some extent. Like, like you always want to work on a compatibility.
oh, of
Like,
course,
it's
right,
a constant work, isn't it? So, but at the same time, like the first step is acceptance,
right,
of course, and like this is a means of just having that, just
right,
instantly. Oh,
right,
actually, this is a thing. Yeah,
yeah,
they aren't just being stubborn; they're not being unreasonable. This is
right,
actually like how they operate, and I can relate to that because I know I operate this way, and that's
right,
just like that's such a gift.
yeah,
So I do think like relationship-wise, that has so many applications. Again, not to go into that rabbit hole necessarily.
right, right, sure,
And also, like I wanted to revisit a point that you just brought up earlier. It's the concept of like feeling more comfortable with written word. Um, I used to, ages 15 to 17 or something, carefully rehearse each word I wanted to say in my head. If it was in front of more than one or two people, I'd be rehearsing in my head
right,
to make sure I'm saying what I want to say. That's a representation of my authentic self, which adds up logically in
sure,
order to again get that social affirmation, or at least to avoid getting a sort of a social how would I say this, rejection, yeah, for lack of a better term. And I had that for a while, and then I don't know, something changed. I guess another transformation. As I remember new things about my progress or development.
you're right,
Yeah, is I began to enjoy chaos more. I began to respect it more, sort of like the randomness of life, or from the human perception. the acceptance of things that are outside of my control.
Right.
And also like the faith in my ability to work with whatever ends up manifesting in this external world, whether it's a consequence of my own actions or another person's. And that meant I could have more fun from that point with what I was saying to people. It's like, maybe I'm fairly unusual among INFJs, or maybe 10% or something.
Right.
So not that unusual perhaps, but in that I enjoy an element of social chaos. Don't get me wrong, like, when it's there, I can't stand it. It gives me like a palpitation. Come on, goosebumps and everything. Like, I need to take responsibility for this stuff. This is actually horrible. I just want to be out of here. Yeah, but the concept of it is no longer scary, because even though I know I'm going to feel bad in that situation, I feel that it's going to be okay as well. And I know that I can act a certain way, and even if the short term does have negative social repercussions, maybe the long term, as a result of causing this conflict. Not to say I'm an angry INFJ or anything like that.
Sure.
But just being myself and just sometimes allowing myself to just say things without thinking that much.
Right.
Or say things that I believe to be very logically true in spite of the sensitivities of other people. Even if I know that it's going to offend someone, just saying it anyway because I believe it to be true, for example.
Right.
I can create a very beneficial situation for our relationship to evolve.
Sure. I can see that.
Even though it's horrendous in the short term.
Well, yeah.
The longer term.
I get
sort of
that.
like, actually, I'm going to do this. And it's not even like taking one for the team. It's not like to say, oh, I'm going to cause this because I know this bad thing's going to happen, but I know this good thing's going to happen after that. But it's more like accepting that this could happen, but also that could happen.
It's some
so
chaos
it's just accepting
theory.
Like the chaos theory of the whole thing.
That's very cool.
Yeah. That's why, like, in the party situation, like, I actually quite like the people who would push you into the spotlight.
I'm more the type to, we do. I don't know if this is a thing where you are, but we do what's called a Yankee swap, which is everybody brings a gift to a party, and they're all wrapped up, and then you draw numbers and you go around, and so like I get number one, I pick one of them. I unwrap it, and this is my gift. And then other people do it, and you can steal somebody else's, or you can unwrap a new one, and so on and so forth. My version of chaos theory would be I will bring a gift that is suggestive or inappropriate for kids, just to see, because nobody knows who brought what, right? So
exactly.
Yeah,
you're no longer responsible for this.
No, I want to bring something
whatsoever.
If
I'm gonna have some fun.
If I can see them open it up and blush, or just like, oh my, that's my way of just kind of throwing.
That is mischief.
Yeah, it's a little mischief. It might be slightly passive aggressive. I don't know, because I'm like, I'm not happy about being at the party.